Hello, Launch family. This is Dare to Launch. My name is Chris, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Jeff Walker.
Hey, everybody.
And we also have our marketing lead, frequent guest to the podcast, Mr. Dan Walker. Welcome back.
Hey, glad to be here.
Excited to have you both on. And a reminder, this is our second episode of the 20th year of basically PLF, right? And Jeff, I wanted to ask you a question as we kind of kick this year off with the Dare to Launch audience. What is your word for this year?
Well, I do have a word. And so first of all, I'm going to go back just a few seconds. If you're just coming into our world, PLF is Product Launch Formula. It's the course, the training that I first released 19 years ago. There is no other training out there in the world, period, full stop, that has been around, continually updated, continually sold for this long. So in terms of online training or let's call it online entrepreneurship, teaching people how to grow online businesses. There's nothing out there that's been around so long. So that's PLF. Sometimes we just use these jargons and acronyms, but there you go. So my word for the year is enthusiasm, because I am enthused. I am excited. We are now entering our 20th year of this crazy PLF journey. And we have so much planned for this year just because I like celebrations. I like surprises. I like orchestrating cool experiences. And so we're going to be doing that all year long. And I am pumped up. I am excited. I am enthused. So my word for the year is enthusiasm.
I love that. I love that.
Right before we started recording, you said, we were just talking about this, and you said sales is something you do for someone, not something you do to someone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, PLF. I never heard that quote until you just said that to me, but I'm like, yeah, that's right on. And that's what Product Launch Formula is all about. It's about helping people share their wisdom, their knowledge, their experience with the world, because most of our clients are doing some type of digital training or consulting or teaching. And it's about letting them, even if they're not a great salesperson, be able to share their work with the world and help people. So sales is something you do for someone, not to someone. And this is, I think I'm going to quote myself here, because I've heard so much, I've learned from so many great, amazing entrepreneurs and so many great, amazing marketers and salespeople. I've learned a lot over the years, but every now and then I think I have an original saying. And so I think this is my original saying, is that it's a simple short one, is that sales is enthusiasm transferred. It's about being enthusiastic about something and sharing that with people. And on our last episode, Dan was just talking about everyone in the world has sold something. Even they're like, I hate sales. I don't like sales. It's creepy. It's icky. I'm not good at sales. But Dan was saying, we've all sold, whether it's you're selling someone to have a date, or you're selling your kids to eat their vegetables, or you're selling yourself to take on a new habit. We have all sold. And I don't think of myself as a great salesperson, but I am, all through my life, I'm really good at getting people enthused about things. Like if I start telling them about like my cell phone plan, they'll get, and if I'm happy about it, I like it, I'll get them pumped up about it. And if I like a book, I'll get people pumped up. That's part of me is when I'm enthusiastic, I share it and I somehow get people pumped up. So anyways, that's a long answer. Enthusiasm, that's my word.
I love that. Oh, and can I also just say, like, when you interviewed me for this job, like a long time ago, because you were bringing to me as like the sales guy on the team or whatever, right? The kind of sales expert. I remember in our interview, you just saying that exact thing to me, saying, well, sales is just enthusiasm transferred, right? Like you kind of said it as along the, like almost like it was inherent, like that's just what you do. And I remember thinking to myself, like, oh, that's really good. I'm going to start saying that to my sales reps right now. And so it was a great callback to that 10 years ago when you interviewed me. And yeah, enthusiasm sells. We saw that all the time when in my old company, we would be just telling people, hey, you're going out to your first sales appointments. The number one thing you could do is just be excited. be enthused. And you know what? That is going to be infectious. It transfers to other people, and all of a sudden they're excited because you're excited. And then all of a sudden they're buying something. It is much simpler than people often make it, I think. And especially with all these kind of launch sequences and everything that people are thinking through now, it can get very complicated. It's just enthusiasm. So I love that word. I wanted to ask you, like, after 19 years really doing this, do you ever get a desire to do something different than just kind of transfer this enthusiasm?
One of my core skills is the ability to not get bored, but I really also think it's just I like to go deep, and I like to go deeper and deeper and peel back the onion. And reality is almost everything is incredibly fascinating if you go deep enough. And the idea of launches, the idea of promotions, the idea of putting together a sequence that just captures someone's attention and brings them into your world, and then you're able to make an offer to them so that they're super receptive to it, and then they step forward and get something great out of it, and then their lives are changed. It's got my interest for all these years, and to continually to get better at teaching it and bringing it to my people. And then I think the biggest thing is our business is built on the results our clients have gotten over the years. And we have clients that literally bought Product Launch Formula on the day it was released in 2005, and they are still clients to this day. And the only way you keep clients for 19 years is by getting them results. And so I love these long-term relationships. I'm enthusiastic about the results my clients get. And I've gotten to be great friends with a lot of them. It's just that is so intoxicating to me. It's addictive to me to get results for my people and see their lives transformed, and knowing that the only way their lives are being transformed is because they're getting the results for their clients. And so there's people whose lives are so much better in so many different domains and areas of expertise that I have no knowledge of. But because my students and clients have that expertise and they've shared that with the world, that's just thrilling.
I love that. I love that. Dan, I want to ask you a question too, because what's exciting you right now about this upcoming 20th year? And do you have a word for this year?
I don't think I've ever thought about having a word for a year, so I don't know if I have a good answer right there. Definitely not one better than Jeff, so we can stick with that one for our episode's word of the year. We are kicking off this new year, and it's interesting to think like, you ask if Jeff gets bored with doing the same thing all the time, and it's funny because I don't think that he is doing the same thing all the time. And it's interesting that so say we talked about this a little bit in the last episode, but one of the cool things we're doing for this 20th year is we have a completely new version of PLF, like redesigned from the ground up, thought about not just refilming, not just repolishing, not just adding a few new things, but thinking like, okay, if we were to step back and now after 20 years of teaching this core strategy, how would we teach it again for the first time? How would we teach it that's entirely designed for where people are right now, how people are learning best right now, and just what's working best out in the world right now? And so in some ways it's the same thing, but it's also fairly radically different, right?
Well, and that's true. I think that's where we can really, I think, get to some wisdom for people is around this thing we call course design, right? Because obviously you've both been involved in doing this for a long time, and in some ways, yes, we're teaching PLF, product launch formula. We started with that at the beginning. It's like the same thing in some formula. However, it's also very, very different. Like Jeff just talked about how successful our clients have been for years and years and years doing this product launch formula. So how do you make something that is so good even better? Can you guys talk a little bit about that and how you thought about it?
So we opened this talking about selling, right? And one really core lesson that I know that I've learned from Jeff is the thought that selling does not stop when someone gives you money. Like selling does not stop just because they purchase your program. Like we are so actively selling people the entire way through PLF. So what are we selling them on? We're selling them on doing it. We're selling them on going through the program, on taking the next step, on believing that they can do it, on putting it into action and going out and getting results. Because the only way that you have a business that makes it to 20 years is if you're doing good work and you're getting people results, right? And in order to get people results, yeah, I guess you could just sell them the training. If the training is good, then people will get results. But you can also get people so much better results is if you really consciously think about how to keep them engaged in the process and how to make sure that they go through it all. And so this is something that I think that Jeff's a master at, and that our content and instructional team are masters at. So I'd love to get Jeff's perspective, even just like, how do you create something that is going to get people results?
So one of the things that I learned long ago was, I learned this from Dan Kennedy, and he said that the purpose of a sale is not to make money. The purpose of the sale is to generate a client. And the meaning of that is that it's, in my experience, this is like actual real world, this experience. And this is not anecdotal, this is statistical. For us in our business, it's 15 times easier to sell to someone who's already bought from you. So like if we have a promotion and we mail 100 people on our prospect list, people that haven't bought from us, versus 100 people on our buyers list, people that have already bought something from us. So same number of people, we mail 100 and 100, we will make 15 times more sales to the people who have already bought from us. 15 times. Think about that. It's insane. When you're in that launch, making money is great. Those sales are great, and it's the lifeblood of a business. But the reality is you're trying to generate clients so that you can continue to service them and continue to sell to them at a higher and a better level. So if that purpose is to generate a client, then you need to deliver a great experience to those clients. Because a lot of people, we mentioned this, I think in the last episode, is like a lot of people are great at marketing, but they're not necessarily great at delivering. And you have to, in this day and age, with so much competition out there, you have to be great at delivering. And that's something that I've been all in on for 19 years, but I've also gotten better and better and better and better at it. And I think we talked about this a little in the last episode. Part of it is about rubbing elbows with your clients and really understand. By that, it's like getting to know them, getting in conversation and community with them, and really understanding what they want and what they need, and then really investing the time and the effort to deliver that. And delivering that isn't, in the old days, it was just give them more and more and more and more stuff. And we talked about this again in the last episode, but nowadays it's about delivering an experience that they can get the results as quickly and as easily as possible.
It really is something different, delivering something versus selling something. I know that from personal experience, because I was a great salesperson. And funny enough, a lot of sales organizations will do this. If you're a great salesperson, they'll say, let's take you out of the field and make you a manager. And you're going to train people now how to sell. And they did that with me. And I learned the hard way my first year of business that it is very different trying to teach people to sell or try to convince people that it's a great opportunity to sell. And I almost lost my shirt my first year trying to do that. Okay. And so it took me a while to learn. It took me a couple of years to figure out on the other side how not only to be a great salesperson, that kind of came pretty easily to me, but how to teach people the skills that I kind of had inherently and were just doing, how to transfer that in a way where people listened and actually embedded that knowledge. And then on top of it, made the decision to do it for themselves. People don't do anything until they feel inspired. And I learned that the hard way too. And I think that when we're talking about course design, one of the things I know you do so well within the courses is not just how to do it tactically, but also creating a feeling that you can do it and that it's the right thing to be doing, and that they have that inspiration driving them forward within the course as well. Maybe you can speak to some of that.
Ancient history, but I think this has got a real lesson. So the first PLF in 2005 was a bunch of CDs and DVDs on a book, and books, a couple books we sent out via a box. So I sent that out. I had no knowledge of what people did with it. I didn't know what their experience was until, I went out to a seminar and I ran into a bunch of people that had bought it and had gotten the box. So it just shipped it out. 2005. Second version, a complete remake in 2008, and that became an online course. And in the online course, there was no community aspect, but there were comments. So people could leave comments on each training video. And so all of a sudden I started to get feedback on every single video. And I was obsessive. I read every single comment, I answered them. So I was super involved in that delivery and watching. And what I saw, and this made all the difference, was that people, in addition to learning how to launch, me training them how to launch, they needed that inspiration. They needed personal development. They needed, growth, personal growth. And this, I figured this out in 2008. And I think I figured this out before anyone else in the industry did, because I was obsessed about those comments. I realized that I wasn't just teaching people how to launch a product or launch a course or a membership site. I was teaching them how to be an entrepreneur, how to think like an entrepreneur, how to think like an empowered person, how to give people a growth mindset. So I realized, and this is a critical thing for everyone out there, if you're teaching, I don't care if you're teaching archery or if you're teaching golf or if you're teaching how to find the love of your life, you aren't just teaching that thing, you are doing personal development for your people. And if you don't do personal development for your people, they're not going to make it through your training, they're not going to get the results, and you're not going to stay in business over the long term. So, Chris, I know you are just one that just soaks up the personal development, and I know Dan is as well. And Chris, you wouldn't have been able to do that job. What you learned to do is you learned to do personal development for your people.
It started with me doing it. I remember like the decision was like this whole first year of like really sucking and losing money and just not being able to get people to, and not being able to influence people to be better for themselves. I realized I had to do that for myself first before I could do it for anyone else. And then when I started to read more and be more inspired and like really go to work on me, that was able to then lean into transferring those things to other people. So if we want to have more, we have to become more. And that's why, never ending development. Right now, it's become a habit in my life that continues to drive me forward. It's one of the reasons I love being in this organization is we're always about growing and personal growth beyond just like, oh, here's how you do a sequence that sells you stuff.
It's the same for me. I am still deep in it. I am so deep in it, into the personal development. And actually what I'm saying right now, folks, this is, if you've wandered into this podcast and you've wandered into this episode, and you're still with us, you're hearing a secret. I'm not sure if I've ever taught this before, is that if you are in this world and you have a membership site or you have a course, you have to understand that you are doing personal development, and that has to be built into the course and the training, because that's the only way to get people moving, to get them results. And that's the only way to stay in business on the long term. So between 2008 and the next complete remake was 2010. And that's why I really started building in that personal development. And we added a community. By the way, that was another, in 2010, we added a community, and that helped with the personal development. And that was a quantum leap. All of a sudden, people were getting better and greater results because we built that in 2010.
You go a little bit deeper there. What does that look like? What does that look like to build that personal development into a course? Because folks might see a course like Product Launch Formula and think like, okay, well, this is going to be about scripting my emails and scripting my videos, and what do my pages look like, and how long do I have the cart open for, and what do I teach in the first thing, and how do I get people to opt in? And like, that's what people think that they're getting. But what does that other stuff look like?
Well, just a super simplest level is starting with when they buy the course, you give them an introduction. And in the introduction, this is just a short, simple video. And I'm not scripted. This is just me being enthusiastic and painting the picture of what their future is going to look like if they just take the next step, the next baby step, which would bring them into maybe module 1. And each module, including module 1, it introduces them. It tells them what they're going to learn. It sells them. It sells them on just completing this this module, which starts with just completing this first video. And you are a winner. Because you are here, you are already a winner. You have set yourself apart from 99% of the entire industry. And you know what? Most people don't even open up this first video, but you are a winner because you have. But the way you continue to win is that you can just step by step, video by video, make it through this module. So each module opens up with setting them up to win in the easiest, simplest possible way. And then when they get through that module, hello, you won. You know how many people don't make it through module 1? You're a winner. You're already a winner. You already are in the elite. And now let me tell you what you just learned, but what you're going to learn in this next module. Next module opens up with, oh my goodness, you actually are here. You are plugged into the second module. You're set. You've won already. Your success is inevitable. And so again, what are we doing? Enthusiasm transferred. That's what it is. And so at the simplest level, it's just taking people through there. And then it's just watching your language all the way through, speaking in terms of growth, speaking to them with respect, but also encouragement and also a challenge. And every step of the way, all the way through, doing that to pull people through and complete.
Yeah, the ability to encourage people from the very beginning, because it's so important. I saw that in sales too, right? Training people, every little action that was correct, you had to find it. You had to find it, recognize it, and what gets recognized gets repeated. And so that can come through a community, that can come through, within the training like that. And going back to what you said at the very beginning, that when they purchase from you, it's really just they're starting a relationship, right? And they're going to continue that relationship when they start going through the course. And if what happens in that course is, they're buying that end result, that idea of the transformation, that person that they want to become at the very, very end, that's what they're buying. But what you're doing so well, taking them from that place way at the end that they bought, that's who I want to be, to the very, very first step and say, hey, you want to be that? Here's what you need to do today. And this very first step to get you down the path, because that is where you're going, but we're going to guide you one step at a time, and not making them feel discouraged because they're not there, but encouraged that they're on the path. And so many people, I think, they just get that wrong, because they only promote like, oh, you're going to become this, instead of saying, no, thank you so much for being here and congratulations, you're on the path. This is where you need to go. It's just such a huge point of encouragement.
Well, I think there's such an important thing too, that it's not just like rah rah, and it's not just speaking to somebody like, oh, you watched a video, good job, you made it, but it's also giving people the opportunity to prove to themselves that they can do this. So throughout PLF, it would be very easy to design a course where it's like just information dump. Here's all the information, here's all the stuff, get to the end of the course. Okay, now go build this thing. Which, building a launch or a campaign or a marketing promotion, it's a big thing. And especially if you're starting from scratch, especially if it's your first time. So it's like, how does somebody prove to themselves that they can do it? It's because they're doing it the whole way through. So we have it's all built out in the course, where it's teaching them this is what you're going to learn now. And then you're actually going to do it right now. And then here's how this sets it up further on the line. This isn't just homework. This is a valuable thing that you're coming back to over and over and over, and then guiding them through actually doing the thing and having the resources and stuff that's built a part of the course, so that people are creating the thing that they want while they're learning, while they're going through the course, they're actually building it. And that's great because it's time saving. It's great because when they get to the end of the course, they have something that's maybe not done, but they've accomplished a huge amount of work. They haven't just accomplished spending a lot of time absorbing information. But it's also so important because it builds that confidence, right? Like if you're teaching somebody how to do something, and it seems like a really big, complicated task, like what's one of the most important things you can do is get them started, get them doing a thing. Like if you're teaching someone how to change a flat tire on a car, they might think that, wow, that's incredibly complicated. There's this car and I gotta get this thing off. And how do I do it? But it's like, you just show them, hey, look, there's these there's these nuts, there's these bolts on the wheel, and you just turn the wrench, see how it's loosened, and then suddenly it becomes a lot more obvious. And then it's, here's how you use a jack, here's how you get the, the tire off the ground, and then you just pull it off. Like, you can take something that seems so monumentally complicated and really give someone confidence that they can do it just by having them take small steps along the way while they're learning.
I love that. I love that. And it's something you guys do so well within the course. And I think that's why I'm excited for people to see it. I wanted to wrap up with just a question, because listening to all this, it can seem to someone who maybe has never created a course, oh man, I got to make this perfect, before I go out there and do it. And maybe you can speak to the danger of perfectionism. If we're not here where you guys are at with this level of understanding, can you speak to, like, hey, don't hold back on this if you're creating your first version of a course?
Well, that's a great question for Dan and I, because I think both Dan and I have a tendency to be perfectionists. And it's like, I don't know if Dan would agree with that, but it's something I try to overcome, because I want it to be perfect. The reality is that Tony Robbins says that perfectionism is the lowest common denominator, because if you're saying I need to be perfect, that means you'll never actually ship. You'll never actually put it out into the world. And so that's like the lowest common denominator, because you're saying I'm just not even going to step into the game. So I try to repeat that to myself. But, I've talked about this quite a bit, is that the reality that when you're starting out is you just have to get live with people. You have to rub elbows with people. You have to teach them and get feedback from them, so that you get better at teaching and training. That's why we teach the seed launch is the place to start. If you're just starting out, do a seed launch, which is where you'll actually sell to a few people, and then you'll teach them live. And it could be on Zoom, it could be on any live platform you want, but you'll teach live so you can get feedback from people. And that's how you learn how to teach. And then it's iterative from there. You just get better and better and better. So, and the great thing is when you're live and you're teaching people live, it's a super forgiving environment, because people don't expect you to be perfect. They expect you to be present, and they expect you to show up in service. But then if you do those things, then you're going to win. And that's the first way to create the first iteration of your training. And you just go from there. You have to get your work out into the world. And we have these capabilities on our team. We have these resources. We have this budget where I can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a new version of the course. That's what I just did. We literally have spent 6 months with my team and hundreds of thousands of dollars, real dollars, not making that up, real hundreds of thousands of dollars to remake this course, because we can. And because we're judged against the greatest people in the industry. That's who our competition is the best people there are. The reality is when you're starting out, that's not who you're competing against. You're going to be delivering a more intimate experience. And when you do that, you don't have to be perfect, but you do have to get your work out there.
So if people want to see the inside of, like, all the things we're talking about, how great a course can be designed, where can they go to see what we're so excited about?
Well, Chris, I am so glad you asked that question. So right now, depending, like if you're listening to this right as this episode is being released, it's right in the midst of this. We're doing this very small, intimate opening, which means it's just for like the insiders in our world that are part of our world. We're not spending a lot of money advertising this. We're not having any partners promote. It's just for the folks in our world. And we're having this very limited release for a few days. And you can get more information there and a lot of actually free training if just go to getyouLaunched.com. That's just getyouLaunched.com. Go there and we got lots of information. We got some training, and you can join us in the first ever open of this new version. Now, if you're listening to this episode 6 months from now, or a year from now, or 19 years from now, then you could just go to productlaunchformula.com. We've got all kinds of free training there. And then eventually at some point, I'm sure we'll reopen registration. So that's at productlaunchformula.com.
Amazing. Amazing. All right, Launch family, I hope you're excited, and we hope this conversation inspires you to dare to launch.